and nobody here is saying you did.
To do this to somebody who's done nothing
because
but love their children.
I'm simply asking you, given whether it's grossly unfair and inappropriate or not, I would still see my children supervised than to not see them at all.
I would do
so
anything
why
to see
didn't you see your children?
We were on mic. They have them turned on. They said they're live mics. Oh, we're fighting. She's the best, though. Oh, I don't want to do this. It's okay. You're talking something unless. Oops. And I should turn on. Oh, that's what you heard. Oops. I dropped something. All right. I don't think I need them. Hi, Elizabeth. Nice to see you again.
Sorry.
No problem.
Hi.
How are you? I hear you had quite a time of it.
Yeah.
You are, aren't you?
I think we'd still find you here.
Nobody's surprised I'm still here.
How many days, weeks, months?
100 and, what am I at, 108?
108 days? I'm
And
sure
it's
they've just
normally
flown by, right?
It's normally just probation. That's if you are even convicted, it's just probation.
Right.
So this is 108 days more than I never would have had to say.
Well, even, because we looked it up, even if they threw the book at you and you got the max, then you would really only serve like 2/3, which is a year. I mean, you still, no matter what, will walk out, even if you got the worst.
That's based off of having any criminal record. I don't have any of that, any priors, they do it off at the pre-sentence screening. And on a pre-sentence screening, I'm like, 0. You have to have like...
You're 0?
I'm big and bad, aren't I? I mean, I've had the same job for all these years, never had any problems. I don't have any, what do they call it, the levels? To give you, that's what they base it off of. They don't just go, okay, we're going to throw the backs at you.
Right.
But, okay.
All right, let's get you guys all framed up and...
Okay.
You look like you've got hair and makeup.
I just was doing it and helping her. We're not supposed to touch each other, but we can do it.
Why not?
They don't allow that.
Yeah,
Attorneys and clients can't touch?
No.
So we air hug.
We air hug.
Oh, wow.
We air smooch.
So that's as close as you can get.
That's weird.
Is that this unique to this county?
I don't ask.
Without coming into the wide shot.
We're in Ramsey County, and Dakota County is in charge of what happens here. So there's been some issues she might want to talk about. I'll let you do the leading.
Okay, so
Okay.
you're single with Sandra?
But what is that? What county jurisdiction? How does that come
I'm
into
just
play?
being housed here.
Oh,
This, Dakota just houses their women
Okay,
here.
that's fine.
So any rules or other than just the
We can
basic
push
housing
them along,
rules
too.
that they have, anything of how things are done are directed, like any of my medical care is decided by Dakota.
And
Anything,
Kyle.
Dakota makes the decisions on their people here.
oh, gotcha.
So if Dakota says, no, she's not getting medical care, it's Dakota's decision, it's not Ramsey. That's not their policy.
And Ramsey can't overrule
I am
or say,
simply-
we're looking at her sitting right here and we can see that.
Oh, yeah, if it's a medical emergency, absolutely, then of course they would.
Okay.
But anything beyond that,
Yeah, that's good.
they can say, well, we want her to be, she can't do this or she can't do
How long
that.
do most people stay here? Excuse me, in this
Not this
jail.
long. They said,
Okay,
except for
good.
we're not honoring, except for the 3 murders, they have here. Longest.
Because I was just in
On a non-violent.
I was in a,
Okay.
most jails don't hold people for that long.
No, they don't.
So,
And he sent them the new paperwork of saying, what are you doing? He held her way past it.
Okay, great.
My
So you're
attorney
good?
had sent to,
You're a criminal attorney?
yes.
And
sent to
who
the
is
judge.
that again?
Stephen Griggs.
All right, great. So Elizabeth, we're good.
Was he your attorney the last time I spoke to you? I think the last time I spoke to you, you were still talking about representing her in the criminal
I
case.
have been supporting, I was representing her. Yeah, I think I was last time we talked.
Yeah. right, so how, we're at day 108?
I think it's 108, I'm not positive. We're over 100, I know that. We're in the hundreds,
Still here.
still here.
Surprised you're still here?
Yeah, very surprised. Just basically on who they do keep here for this extreme length of time. I'm not really in that level. For the reasons of my history and my background, I guess I'm shocked myself.
What did you think?
Elizabeth, just go like this with your hair.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What did you think would have happened by now? You spent Thanksgiving here, Christmas here, New Year's here.
Yeah, not this. I think this is a definite retaliation, in my opinion,
Retaliation for what?
for me suing the county and suing the judge. Right? To me, it just appears that, because nothing else warrants it, this excessive long of a time. The only thing I can think of why they would do this.
And on what grounds are you suing the judge in the court?
Michelle, you'd have to step around.
Okay, well, you just want me to answer that?
Yeah, you can just jump right in.
It's a long story. She had a lawsuit. It was a federal class action civil rights lawsuit. Her and her 5 children were the representative class, and we sued the judge of Dakota County and a number of other people, we call them does, right before her child custody trial.
And alleging what?
Well, alleging that the judge had violated her civil rights, that the judge had overstepped his bounds, had absolutely no jurisdiction for what he did to his
And what's the
family.
status of that lawsuit right now?
The status of the lawsuit is that the judge claimed immunities, and it went all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. It was appealed, and it is, now there's a petition for a rehearing pending before the United States Supreme Court.
So the United States Supreme Court
Denied it.
denied hearing it.
Denied hearing it. You probably know how that works. They only hear 1 in a zillion cases. And it was based on the civil rights violation that she and her children endured. You know about that, right?
So, getting back to your jail stay here, I mean, when you and I spoke last a couple of months ago, you were hanging in there. Anything
Still
changed
hanging
since
in
then?
Still hanging in there. I'm sure you're familiar that I had an incident with my heart.
What happened?
We don't quite know. We do believe that this wasn't a heart attack, but it was some type of a misstep in my heart. I was rendered unconscious. I fractured my skull, broke my nose. You can kind of tell. And I am on a monitor now for my health.
Any idea what caused this?
They don't know. They did testing and stuff like that, so they did find a skip. But
Like an arrhythmia or a
something.
heart murmur?
They're trying to figure out what it is right now. And so I had requested, because I'm supposed to get to act, to be active and be doing things, obviously in a jail, you can't do that. We did request to Dakota County and the present judge right now, could I go see my physicians fix my nose, and as well as see the heart, and we were denied.
You were denied that?
Denied. They offer a lot of times furloughs so you can go to see your doctor, or the fact that I could be at home, or wherever, Michelle's or wherever, on a monitor, so I could go and get care as needed, and somewhat have a more normal day policy of getting up, working out, eating good, just a regular more for my health alone. Since I am on a non-violent, and they're not even responding from what I know. Now, go ahead.
Why don't you tell them what happened at the hospital? I mean, she was hospitalized. It was a day that she had a hearing, and
Very excited about the hearing.
one of the, usually there's a woman in the hospital room with her. Instead, there was a deputy that I sued from Dakota County in the room with her, and you can explain what happened.
Pretty much a
Wait,
deputy.
you sued because of what happened that day, or you had sued previously?
I have a lawsuit against Dakota County for what happened to me at her trial. I don't want to conflate or mix things up. I'm not sure how much you know.
So it's the same deputy? Yes, I know everything about that.
The same deputy showed up that morning. They said there was no other deputy available to show up. And I said, you mean there's no other deputy on duty? You have to be the deputy here to guard me, because I was, again, Dakota County. So when this county brought me there, they couldn't stay with me. I'm Dakota County's responsibility. So and he said, no, there is nobody available but me, and I have to stay with you. He proceeded to refuse to leave the room even after the doctor asked him to, and said he could look through the window to keep an eye on me, even though I was shackled by my legs and my arms to the bed. He said he could not leave my side. Why I was checked over by the doctor, why I used the commode. Deputy Gonda refused to leave.
And he made some comments.
Then after they changed to a new guard, another male guard, he said, keep an eye on her. She's the one that sued me. Her and her attorney sued me. And I'm not the one that did it. I'm like, I never sued you. That's what he said, and then he out the door locked. But yeah, it was inappropriate viewing. It's inappropriate behavior by him. I find it hard to believe he was the only one on duty that morning. I've had quite an experience here.
Do you ever wonder how this all came about? How this all happened? Do you ever think, did I do something that got myself here?
I've thought of 1,000 things. I mean, all I did was, where did it all start? I wanted safety for me and my kids. And I was being given the safety by my ex-husband deciding that he would give me the divorce. That's where this whole thing, all I wanted was for me and my kids to have a normal life and live in a home and be safe. I mean, this is completely blown out of proportion. They're not protecting me, they're not protecting my children. I mean, I don't know what their motive is or what they're doing. I can't assume what they're doing. But we've gone everywhere for help, and we haven't been able to get it. And all it's been like is they keep coming after me for it. And my children.
After we spoke to you here the last time, we've spent the last few months, digging around, talking to everybody, and we wanted to come back and give you a chance to respond to a few things. You say you were only protecting your kids. Everybody reportedly who has seen the kids or spoken to the kids say the kids are doing really well with your ex-husband.
And those are, I'd have to say, probably the same ones that they insisted that we go to, that are in this inner circle. I'd have to question that. I just would. I think people that really know me and the kids that knew us prior to the certain specific people hired for this case would say differently.
Well, your kids themselves are saying that.
Well, I don't know how much you know about abuse situations, but living in one for 20 years, when you're in a situation that you have to live there, and you have to sleep there, and you're afraid, you will do anything. And you will say anything to protect yourself.
I know you and I, when we spoke last time, you told me you thought your oldest son, Nico, had been brainwashed. But he continues to tell us that you coached him and his brothers and sisters to run away, that you brainwashed them into thinking they were abused. He now changes his story. He says he was never abused, as he once said before. And that his brothers and sisters are doing actually really well now in the house with their dad. There have been no teachers at school, no friends, no classmates have noticed anything amiss. Nobody's come to class with a black eye or...
Well, I have a different opinion of that. And Nico, I can't speak for him.
Well, what do you think? You're his mom.
I haven't seen Nico for a long time. It's sad that he's saying that. The fact that he was saying something differently before. I'm sad that that's the way he's thinking. Or that's what he's saying. If that's actually true, then that's a good thing. But I don't find that to be true.
The Guardian ad litem noted this. This reporter has observed that most of the children's fears appear to be Sandra's fears that have been significantly projected and transferred onto the children. Did you somehow convince your own kids that their dad was abusing them?
No.
So why would Guardian ad litem, not one but two different Guardian ad litems, say such a thing?
Could it be the same Guardian ad litems that were on this that we had issues with? Or was it the outside people?
With all due respect, Sandra, you've had issues with just about everybody associated with this case.
What I'm trying to tell you is that they have a certain group that has been associated with this case, and nobody else has been allowed from the outside to come in. They've used a small group of people. We've asked to use outside people and been denied. So that's where I have the issue with this.
So the other Guardian ad litem wrote, Miss Grazzini-Rucki, am I pronouncing that right?
Rucki.
Rucki Ms. Grazzini-Rucki has demonstrated a willful, consistent disregard for the court process and has refused to comply with multiple court orders. Ms. Grazzini-Rucki has made multiple allegations of abuse against Mr. Rucki. However, this reporter could find no substantiations by the professionals involved of said abuse. In addition, Ms. Grazzini-Rucki has displayed a pattern of this behavior by making continuing allegations about any professional involved in this case that questions her statements.
That's not true. Unfortunately, that is not true.
Well, you've accused the judge of malfeasance and of lying and
But I do have facts
hiding
that face that.
things.
There's a lot of facts behind this that aren't being brought out. There's a lot of things behind it. I'm sure you're digging for them, and you will find them that are not being brought out.
Like what?
I don't think anything's ever been brought out.
There's a lot that hasn't been brought out. You're seeing what they want you to see, and I know you're doing a great job, but you are still seeing what they want you to see.
Well, we did ask you, we dug for all the documents that the two of you said existed. You told us that there were court orders that the judge had given forbidding you to talk to police, forbidding you to cooperate with police in the search for your kids. That we can find them and you haven't given them to us. You have not given us those court orders, nor have you given us the police reports of domestic violence that you said you had filed and that Michelle had. We've asked for those, you haven't given them, we can't find them.
I haven't been asked for those by you. You haven't been asked for those.
We did ask for those.
You didn't ask me for those.
We did, and I'll ask yet again on camera, and I asked when we were on camera 2 months ago in this very jail, that for substantiation of anything that the two of you are telling us. You can say he beat me up, I called the police, the judge filed this order, it's in there, trust me. We can't find it, and you can't give it to us, and the judge says it doesn't exist.
Well, I want to go back to the fact that
If you could just answer this one, why can't we find anything to prove anything that you're telling us?
Yeah, she had an order for protection. She had an order for protection from June of 2011 all the way
That's not what we're talking about, right. We know all
So
about that in the
when you
circumstances.
get an order for protection, it is substantiated. She had to go into court, she had to testify. So she had an order for protection during these proceedings.
An order of protection doesn't mean that there were ever any police reports. And you told me that there
I
were.
have tons of them. All my documents are with my attorney. Obviously, I don't have anything. But I did have them, and I turned them all over to my attorneys. So that is where they are.
Yeah, when I got this case, she had already had an order, and I told you that it was in 2 hours. She was to leave the home, leave all of her possessions, leave her children, and have no contact or be incarcerated. David Rucki was subject to that identical order. So she was living in a home, and she had lived there with her children for 14, 15 years, taking care of them. And the evidence that was presented to Judge Knudsen was that she had been an excellent mother, that she had, the children were in the same school district for all of those years. They had been in the same churches, had all of their Catholic upbringing, had been going to the same doctors, activities, beauty pageants, and in one day, she was told by her attorney that she needed to leave all of her property, all of her children, and she could have no contact with them or be incarcerated. And that's the place where I came into the case. I had never seen anything like it. There was no justification for that. And all done on a phone call. Have you seen the transcript of that phone call?
Nobody's taking issue with any of that. What I'm asking for, and what we asked for 2 months ago, and have searched for 2 months, is any of the documentation that you assured us existed to corroborate what you're telling us. And we can find none of it.
But it does exist. It really does exist.
Where is it?
It was with my attorneys. I turned
Which
over-
attorney?
It went from one attorney to the next. Michelle, do you even have the new ones? I mean,
Well, what happened was she had an attorney. She, in her divorce, okay, at this time, the one that called her, and another attorney that had gotten her an order for protection. And those attorneys had the documents. I have invited your staff to come to my office and look through several boxes. I got the case, and it was not even about the abuse anymore. It was really about the abuse of this mother being deprived of her entire life, of her property, of her home, of her children. That's where I got the case. The abuse had already taken place.
So you
And
don't
then-
have any of those records?
we do have those records.
You don't have any of those records?
They're in boxes.
But do you have them? Do you know what's in those boxes?
You have all the
other
police
attorney
reports, you
gave,
have everything.
yeah, police reports.
You have everything.
And I will turn
You
them
have
over to
everything.
you. The police reports, now, you had called the police after the fact several times.
Yep, all the police reports, all the documents are in those boxes that you made. Have you been there, her place?
We've been asking,
I don't know.
Sean, how many times have you called?
We can go, but I think we're
Sean.
specifically talking about, we're not talking about the order of protection, we know about that. We're
Yeah.
talking about the order that said you weren't allowed to have any contact with people in your past, the order that said,
You can't talk to the police.
Yeah, she has all those.
That order, the order was a no-contact order where she couldn't even get a hold of her kids through third parties. That's the order she's talking about.
So where's the order that said that you couldn't comply or help the police in any way when your daughter
Ed
went
Knutson's
missing?
courtroom, anything that was either written or verbal was considered an order. So you literally...
Right, but the judge says he never gave that
Yes,
order.
he gave a
So
verbal
we're left
order.
to going back to you to say, where's the order?
It's in the transcripts. It's written, it's a verbal order from the bench, written in the transcripts.
Okay,
That is
well-
where it is.
The judge says that does not exist,
I
and
know it
therefore
says
he can't turn that over. So you're left making an allegation that's unsupported by any proof.
But it is supported because I was there and it was a direct order to me from the bench. I know what he told me. It is in the transcripts.
Well, but that leads us to an interview that I just conducted, actually, with Dale Nathan, who said that he was with you in April of 2013, making copies at Kinko's, when you got a phone call, became agitated, said, Dale, jump in the car, and the two of you drove to a field near your house, your old house, waited for about 20 minutes when your two daughters jumped in the back seat without shoes or coats, and then you drove off. Drove around for quite some time that night, on the phone, as he said, looking for a place to take them.
This
Is that
is
true?
related to the trial.
Yeah, that'll all be talked about at the
I can't
upcoming
comment on
trial.
anything related to the trial. You know
Well,
that.
all I'm telling you is you sat right here and spent half an hour telling me you hadn't seen or spoken to your daughters. And I've now spoken to 3 people who tell us, in fact, that's a lie. So if you were lying to me about that, what else might you be lying to me about?
Can't discuss anything about that.
Well, that's rather
You know
convenient
that.
right now.
Well, you knew that prior to this. We discussed this last time.
We discussed this last time, and you talked and said, I never saw them. I found out from Michelle that they were missing. I didn't tell the police anything because I couldn't.
That is true.
I haven't seen or spoken to my daughters since I was taken away from the house in September of 2012. And according to witnesses who have gone on camera, who actually know and support you, they're your supporters, and they're saying you're lying.
I can't discuss anything regarding the trial. I just can't. I'm hoping that you'll see for what's going on and you'll understand it. But that's all I can ask you to do until we get to the trial.
All I can see, Sandra, is we either believe you, and in order to believe you, everybody else out there, the judge, your ex-husband, the guardians ad litem, even your own previous attorneys, your supporters, the people who were hiding and taking care of your daughters for 2 years, all those people are lying in order to believe that you're telling the truth.
I'm telling you, I can't discuss anything that's coming up.
I'm not asking you to discuss that. I'm asking you as a human being, what would you think? Do I believe this one
no,
person and all these other disparate people are lying? I mean, it's kind of crazy, isn't it?
I really can't.
Okay, first of all, I should speak to that a bit. One of the defenses, an affirmative defense, is if you are, and they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she didn't have a reasonable belief that her children need protection. And I don't think anybody can dispute that those children needed protection.
Well, people will dispute it, but that's up to a judge to decide. That's not what we're talking about, though. We're talking about just the fundamental fact that your client sat here and told me for 45 minutes when we sat here 2 months ago that she hadn't seen or spoken to her children. And these people who are your friends and supporters say, in fact, that was a lie. It goes to you directly to your credibility.
I'm aware of that. I am aware of that.
Whether it's the defense that the Dollins are going to take or not is another matter completely. That's their defense. They may say, Sandra told us these girls were in danger. We felt we had to protect them.
That's an affirmative defense that
Right.
Sandra can bring.
Absolutely.
A parent can
But
protect their kid.
how do they know that? I mean, they're also saying that Sandra brought the girls to them, and Sandra told them about the girls' plight, all of which makes Sandra a liar in my last interview.
Well, Sandra will be testifying in court, so she'll be able to talk about all of that. She's planning on testifying in court.
Oh, I'd hope so.
Yes.
And is Judge Knudsen going to be the trial judge in this?
Judge Knudsen isn't going to be the trial judge, but we're certain he has his hand in it. Like I told you the last time, when she had her first hearing here, and it was scheduled at 11 o'clock on the court calendar, and instead, without an attorney, she was brought into another judge at 9:30 that Judge Knudsen had essentially handpicked to take the case, and they put $1 million bail on her. When she said affirmatively that she had an attorney who was going to be there.
And is it still $1 million, or has it been cut in half?
It's 500 now.
The following week, and the following week on Monday, I had that order vacated, and Judge Ashbaugh, a different judge, lowered it to $750,000 with conditions. And then we had a bail investigation. Sandra has had no criminal history whatsoever. She's been working her same job at the airlines for 30 years. And it seems like they're doing some kind of a favor by saying we're just going to lower the bail. She won't be able to make $1 million bail. She won't be able to make a $500,000 bail. And the conditions they put on her are completely unreasonable.
You have experience in these kinds of cases. Have you ever heard of a nonviolent, steadily working person accused of, I mean, these aren't even violent crimes.
Yeah,
I mean, why not let her out with conditions that you have no contact with the children or something like that?
Well, yeah, I mean,
What would you have expected traditionally, typically, had been done in these cases?
she would have been released on her own personal recognizance, and she had the condition might have been just to show up at court. She has already served time that she wouldn't even get if she was convicted. She's been here longer than if she would have been if she was convicted. It's a presumption of probation for what she's in here for. And she'd be in here for another reason, for the failure to protect her kid. That's why she's in between a rock and a hard place. There's the failure to protect, and then when you do protect, there's the deprivation. She's between a rock and a hard place.
Who was charging her with failure to protect her children?
Nobody was charging her with failure to protect, but that's the antithesis of what she's being charged with now. The deprivation of parental rights And at the time of the kids ran away, and I think everybody agrees they ran away on their own volition. At that time,
With a lot of help.
neither parent had any custodial rights relating to those children. Okay, and the parents could have been charged with it's called failure to protect. If nothing had been done. So you're between a rock and a hard place. You're committing a crime if you're protecting the kids, and if you're committing a crime if you fail to protect the kids.
I'm sorry, I don't really follow on how that was an imminent threat. I've never heard anywhere in this case anybody saying we're going to charge Sandra with failing to protect her children. I've heard lots of talk about allegations that Sandra brainwashed her children, or allegations that she was, poisoning them against their father, but never that she was failing to protect them. I mean, I'd be curious to know who ever threatened her with charging her with that crime.
That's the there wasn't.
So there wasn't any threat.
There wasn't any threat.
This is something you sort of
No, a deprivation of parental rights. The opposite of that is a failure to protect. So if she wasn't protecting her children, if she's between a rock and a hard place, she's either protecting them or she's not protecting them.
So I'm curious as to why during all that time you saw your children so little. You have said to me your children mean the world to you. Why did you see them so little?
This is related to the case.
No, she was court-ordered not to see her children from the beginning.
No. The court was ordering her to see the children.
No, there was
We have
no
the documentation.
There was no court orders
We
ordering her to see her
recommend
children.
that both parents continue to see the children. They encourage Sandra to see the children. I'm curious as to why
That
she
is
didn't.
not the orders that I saw. The order that she has is no contact with her children or she'll be incarcerated. Okay.
No contact unsupervised.
That final order that you're talking about, where the father got custody of all 5 children, that she wasn't even at the end of that trial, as you know.
We have read every single court order, and every single one says
That court order doesn't.
we recommend both parents continue to have contact with the children. In some cases, they insisted that it be supervised.
So
Pending a psychological evaluation, which the court says you refuse to take.
That's not true again. Yes, I did take it and I turned it over.
she took several psychological
They all come back
evaluations.
fine.
Well, one of them
More-
said you were narcissistic with histrionic tendencies.
That's the one they said I never showed up for. So,
Okay,
if you read all the court orders, then you should be aware that that was also in the transcript.
I'm just curious because I think that mothers in our audience will try and struggle to understand the choices that you made in what is hands down, no matter where you fall in the spectrum, a divorce battle from hell. It's a terrible, terrible divorce that you and your ex-husband went through. But your choice is not to spend time with your children, and instead take trips or pose for pictures at the Stanley Cup finals or at the NASCAR races. Why are you at those events? Why aren't you doing whatever it takes to be with your children?
But that's not even a fair question to ask.
Why isn't that
You're not
fair?
even going to what has been happening through all this.
We have pictures of you at those events. You've told me that you could not go see your children because you were forbidden by the court to do so. We have court orders saying we encourage Sandra to please, with supervision, spend time with her children. That would be best for them.
You don't have a court order that says that. You have a court order where she has no custodial rights. You have a court order that says that David, Rucki, and her are supposed to talk and arrange time with the children. She is operating under the court order that denied her complete rights.
Let's have
So
David
it
Rucki
doesn't-
and she should talk and
It
arrange
doesn't-
time to see the
Yes,
children.
that's
Why
in
not?
the court order. That's
Yes.
in the court order.
So why didn't you do that?
Well, David Rucki, why didn't she do that?
Yes. Why didn't you go see your children?
He would never allow her to see her children.
You're saying David prevented you from seeing
David would
children?
not allow her to see the children. The courts will not allow her to see the children.
He tells us something completely
I'm sure
different.
he does. And he probably can.
And he's lying too.
Well, why don't you set it up? Why don't we set up, when she gets out of here, a reunion with her and her children? We'd love to see you facilitate that. And, because it isn't as easy as you think. When you have a woman who's been ostracized from her home and her family. And I don't think it's a good thing that they don't have a mother right now. They had a mother, and their mother took care of them for years and years, and did everything in her power to raise those children in the right way. You heard her testimony. There was nothing in it that didn't explain what a great mother she was all of those years.
Do you ever
And it was
think...
all ignored. The Guardian ignored it. The Guardians weren't worried about what was being published on social media. The one Guardian that was a supervisor that she complained with had never even met Sandra except for the time, I think, when she went and complained to the Guardian. So this is just, it's not even based in reality.
It just sounds like such an extraordinary conspiracy.
To blame everything on just me, it makes it kind of nice for you, doesn't it?
It doesn't...
That's what it
I'm
kinda
not
sounds
doing
like.
that. No.
Kind of makes it sound like,
I know, I would say actually your judge and your husband and the guardians ad litem and the police and even your friends and supporters are saying that, Sandra. It's not me.
This whole thing is just me.
Well, that's what they're all saying. And when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, you just refuse to answer the question.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that there's certain things that I've been advised not to answer. And we knew that before we even started this. So I'm following through with what I said.
Well, you're refusing to answer things that you already did answer before.
Where's the evidence that anybody but the court deprived the parents of these children? Where's the evidence that she actually deprived, in the very beginning, David Rucki of the children? There's no evidence. But the only evidence is the court stepped in to a family where they're not even supposed to be involved in, and deprived both of these parents of the children. I've never seen anything like that. That's a civil rights violation to the nth degree.
And I think that many, and probably at least half of all the people who have appeared in family court anywhere in this country would tell you family court is screwed up. I mean, basically, family court is where the most deeply personal, excruciatingly painful things are being decided for you and your children by somebody who's a complete stranger. So, I mean, there have been slews of stories and cases to show how broken, in many ways, family court can be. I'm just curious, in this case, do you feel comfortable with every decision you've made about how you handled yourself and how you treated your children in this divorce?
What do you think about that? I'm not prepared to answer that right now. The way this interview's going, I question a few things. So I'll think about that. I'm going to give you an answer.
So, I don't think you understand how persecuted she has been.
I do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I understand that you're sitting here in extraordinary circumstances. And it's a thicket of allegations to wade through. And we've tried very hard to find any corroboration for many of yours and cannot. And when we've gone to talk to the sources of all these different things, even your friends and supporters are telling me that you lied to me. So it's difficult to just accept anything you're telling me at just face value, Sandra. I wouldn't do that with anybody. So when you tell me a lot of things in my last interview, and we go and try and find the proof for it that you maintain is there, and we have not yet been able to do so, and some of the other things you told me have been proven to be lies by your own friends and supporters, tell me why I should believe you.
Other than not lies.
Dale Nathan is lying?
I haven't talked to Dale.
I just told you what Dale said. You know very well what Dale is saying. He's
I've
been
read it.
deposed, he's been interviewed by the police, he's being looked at as maybe being charged with a crime.
I haven't heard any of that.
Well, I just told you what Dale said.
No, you just didn't know.
So what I don't think you comprehend, okay, and the American public needs to comprehend is that if she had all of her papers in the home, she had to leave there in 2 hours. She had nothing. She didn't know how long she was going to be gone. She just had to leave with a suitcase. And everything was left there, and it's still there.
The document, we have
All the possessions.
but what she's saying is, we don't have them. We have a lot of them that substantiate
Well, police-
everything we've said.
Police
They
reports.
are in the books. We do have the records to back it up. So that is not even a doubt.
So once again, I'll make the request 2 months later, again on camera. Please give us the documents. We would like nothing more than to be able to corroborate everything you've told us. That would be fantastic. So maybe when we're done with this interview, once again, Sean can make clear what it is that we need to see going through our previous interview and this interview, so that we can make sure that all your allegations, as we are with the other side, and every side, we don't just accept anybody's story at
All
face
of the
value.
allegations, so the allegations of the abuse, police reports, and I think what she told you is, before the separation, she had
We've had everything.
contacted the police. So
It's
you
not just
want
that, it's that,
police
and it's all these court orders that
Well,
the
court
judge...
orders are the results of hearings, and the court orders, there was only one actual evidentiary hearing, and that was the child custody trial.
All right, well, you maintain the judge made rulings. The judge denies he made the rulings. They don't make sense, the rulings, to anybody who's got, sort of any common sense. Like, why would you order a mother not to talk to the police about her missing children? She might have relevant information. Well,
I know. I know.
Okay.
He keeps saying he didn't, but he issued a lot of orders from the bench that he claims he hasn't done a lot of them either.
Okay, but you can't show me anything to prove that that's the
Everything,
case.
when she can talk about the transcript.
Well, she was operating under an order that said even through third parties, she can't contact her children.
He
And
keeps
so,
saying he hasn't done these things, but he has done them, and we have been able to prove them in the past. You do have the documents, it's not an issue. But Judge Knudsen cannot keep saying, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. We do have the proof that he did do it. We have it written in transcripts, we have it in orders. He did do a lot of things that he's claiming he did.
I'm curious, Michelle, in all of your work on this, I've spoken to, we at 2020 actually a couple of years ago did a story on this sort of underground network that can sometimes help mothers and mothers and children who are in need of escaping abusive husbands and fathers. Are you aware of that network at all? Have you ever heard of it?
I've never heard of such a network.
You've never heard of this loosely sort of, this group? What is that thing called? It begins with
Protective parenting.
Protective parenting.
Yeah.
You haven't heard of it either.
I haven't heard of it, no.
You haven't heard of it?
I just would think it would be a people helping people kind of an organization.
Well, yeah, what's the
It isn't anything that I became aware that these types of organizations exist through my work with Sandra, but I had no idea that they exist. You actually reported that they existed last time I was here.
Oh, we did a whole hour on
There's
them, actually.
lots of
They've been-
organizations.
Yeah,
There's lots of organizations all crying out that the courts are depriving them of their property and their children.
So why do you think, is that why you think these sorts of underground networks are necessary? Have they grown out of, as a result of what you think are bad and punitive and destructive rulings?
I can't really speak to the underground networks. I'm speaking to what happens in courts that I have witnessed on a daily basis, that families are going to courts for help, like Sandra might have gone to court for help with her divorce, and instead what she ends up with is no children and no property. These family courts are the antithesis of family.
You started something called the Family Innocence. Is it a project? Is it a foundation?
I started a nonprofit called Family Innocence. It's dedicated to keeping families out of court, resolving conflicts and injustices peacefully.
How do you do that?
How do we do that?
Through like a mediator, or?
We start with restorative justice circles for families, and I guess you could call that the underground, because these are people actually talking, working out their differences, communicating with each other, and not needing the courts to get involved in their lives. We walk them through different processes that are not court processes.
Well, I don't think that would be the underground in the way that these networks operate, because nobody's missing, right?
Right,
They're
nobody's
all
missing.
present.
Yeah, nobody's missing, but
present
they're
and
not.
accounted for.
What they're warned about is submitting their lives to the jurisdiction of the court, the family courts. Because what I've learned is that courts are depriving us of our liberties with our children and our property on a regular basis. And better to work things out than to go there.
In the middle of all these this huge case and the class action lawsuit against Judge Knudsen, you have your own civil suit going.
Right.
What happened?
Right.
I mean, I know, but I need you to tell me.
Well, I was representing Sandra. It was the second day of trial. For some reason, the public mensus, we call it, that said the trial is canceled. And Sandra and I went into court, and we had already put on our case the day before, so this was their case. And in fact, I was cross-examining the guardian in the morning, and I needed to look for an exhibit. And Judge Knudsen called a morning break, and when he got off the bench, the deputies came at me and Sandra, and they took me in the back. They arrested me. Sandra was told that her trial was over. I was in the back. Eventually, they stripped me of my glasses, my shoes, my hairpiece, my jacket, put me in handcuffs, and put me in a cell. They eventually came to get me. They came with a wheelchair. I asked them for all of my liberties back. I was in a state of shock, of course. And instead, they brought a wheelchair and wheeled me back out into the courtroom. At this point, I'm wheeled back out into the courtroom, and there is none of my boxes are there, none of my paperwork. My client is missing. All of her supporters and spectators are gone. And Judge Knudsen gets back on the bench, and he says, something must have happened during the break. And he tells me that I can participate or not participate in this custody trial, that the trial is going to continue without my client and with me in that state. And I proceeded to continue to cross-examine the guardian. I cross-examined David Rucki in that state. At some point in time, they took a lunch break. They wheeled me back into the cell. Now I'm in the cell in handcuffs, in the wheelchair. They threw a lunch at me, and then after the lunch break, they wheeled me back out again for the afternoon session. At the close of the trial, and this was David Rucki's attorney putting on his case, Judge Knudsen looked at the other side and said, "Do you rest your case?" And they said, "Yes." And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, "I'll take the matter under advisement," and got off the bench. And then I was wheeled by the deputies who said to me, "Things are going to get worse for you," and brought me over to the jail.
Why were you cited by the deputy?
Presumably, it was for taking a picture of the deputy.
You were videotaping on your phone in the courtroom.
No, I was not videotaping on my phone.
What were you doing?
I took a picture of the deputy, and he was smiling and waving at the camera.
But you know that's against state law to do that.
It's not against state law to do that.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't. It's not against state law to do that, to take a picture in a courtroom.
I read the transcript from that whole day in that court.
You're reading transcripts, you're reading what the court happens, it's not against state law
So the judge
to
is
take a
wrong?
picture. The judge didn't do this to me, he did it in the background. The judge didn't hold me in contempt. The judge did everything
So the
surreptitiously in
bailiff
the
made
background.
this up. You're saying the bailiff made this law up.
The bailiff just simply arrested me.
Well, he said he was actually trying to give you a citation and that you refused to give him any of your personal information.
He didn't give me a citation. In fact, the citation was in my property bag at the end of the day.
Why didn't you just give him the ID card when he asked you for it, or give him the personal information he needed for the citation?
I was kind of in a state of shock. He asked me my name, and all I said was, "You know my name."
So you denied
It's the only
that
thing he asked me for. He knew who I was.
You refused to cooperate in any way with him.
I cooperated in every way. What am I supposed to do? Why am I being arrested?
So the bailiff is lying.
He wouldn't even
I'm sorry.
tell me why I was arrested.
Well, yes, he told the court. We heard the transcripts. But he's lying when he says you refused to cooperate or give him any information at all.
Right.
He tried to give you
He
the
asked me
citation.
my name, and I said, "You know my name."
And when he asked you for more information, what did you say
He
then?
didn't ask me for more information. He asked me for my name. He asked me for my address. I said, "You know my name."
So you
And
just
then
kept
he
saying, "You know my
he
name"?
arrested me. "You know my name."
Well, so you do admit that you weren't cooperating when he was asking you questions. You weren't giving him the answers.
I didn't give him my name because he knew my name.
When you were wheeled back into court, you say you began to cross-examine right away, but actually the transcripts show you didn't, that for quite some time you refused to speak. The judge kept asking you, "Do you have anything to say? Would you like to address? Or do you have any questions?" And you said nothing.
Yeah, I was in a state of shock, but I remember at one point he said you could probably call your staff to come, and I said, "Your Honor, they took my cell phone."
Okay, I'm just
just,
asking because you just
you know.
told me a second ago that you proceeded to then,
I did.
from the wheelchair, cross-examine the
I did. I
witnesses.
cross-examined witnesses. And then after the break, I cross-examined David Rucki in that state. And I objected throughout the entire proceeding. I kept objecting, and he kept going.
So what is the status of that lawsuit?
The status of the lawsuit is that it's in federal court, and it's a lawsuit against Dakota County, the deputies, also the prosecutor. And we just did a motion, they are claiming immunities for what they did in court and the behavior.
So you have that civil suit. When do you expect that to be adjudicated in any way?
Well, the motion is pending. I think we'll be able to get an answer on that quite readily. In federal court, they have as much time as they need to make a decision.
Which motion is pending?
The motion, they want it dismissed based on immunities.
So there's that suit, and then there's your class action lawsuit against Judge Knudsen, correct?
That was the one that we had filed the day before my arrest. It was the first day of trial, and I asked Judge Knudsen to remove himself from the case, and he did not, even though he had just been sued in federal court.
Okay.
And we proceeded to present Sandra's case that day. Her case based upon the best interest factors, because what had happened to Sandra and her family was in the worst interest of the kids. So we presented the best interest factors, things like the children living in the same home, things like the children going to the same doctors, in the same community, activities, her care of the children.
And I'm just curious, the charges she files, are they felony charges?
The charges she files?
I'm sorry, faces. The charges she faces, are they felony charges?
These are felony charges, yes.
Because most people haven't heard this charge before.
Yes, it's not
Deprivation of parental rights is not,
It's a misdemeanor in most states.
it's a misdemeanor.
Misdemeanor in most states.
It's not commonly presented. And at the time, the children ran away, and I think it's undisputed that they ran away of their own volition.
Well, I don't think that's undisputed.
Neither parent had rights. Neither parent had rights to their children. They were both deprived from the court. Like I explained to you before, if one parent is depriving the other, what courts would normally do is place custody in the other parent. So they didn't place custody in David Rucki right away.
But while the girls were missing, they did place custody for the 5 children with David Rucki. So would the deprivation of parental rights kick in at that point?
No, it's the actual day that happened. I think it was April 19th. It's the activities of that day. That's the activity that's part of the trial. I want to also point out to you that the custody order that gave David Rucki custody of all 5 kids was attached to the federal case, Judge Knudsen's motion to dismiss. So he wrote that order in order to attach it to the federal case. He wrote that order. And he gave
your loop.
The loop is that I never saw it. Sandra never saw it in the family court case. I saw it on the day I received his motion to dismiss the federal case that Sandra had against him. It was attached as an exhibit to that case.
And what does that tell you?
It just tells me that it was orchestrated, planned, manipulated, that everything in that piece of paper was planned so that he could have a defense to the civil rights violation that he inflicted on his family.
Are you saying he would not have awarded custody of the 5 children to David Rucki had Sandra not filed that lawsuit?
If he was following the law, he would not have awarded custody to David Rucki if he was following the law.
So you're not saying it had anything to do with the lawsuit? You said earlier you thought it was retribution.
I thought it was retaliation.
So is it retaliation or not?
It's retaliation. Absolutely.
So then was it a mistake to file that lawsuit?
Was it a mistake to file the lawsuit? We didn't have much of a choice to file the lawsuit because she was still under that civil rights violation, that order. I had previously to that filed a constitutional challenge and given the judge the opportunity to vacate his orders and allow this entire family to be freed.
But the point is what you're telling me is that you believe that filing this lawsuit led the judge to retaliate against Sandra and award custody of the 5 kids to David.
Oh, I absolutely, positively believe that. The lawsuit was filed the
But the
day...
lawsuit hasn't accomplished anything except retaliation to Sandra.
Right, but the lawsuit was filed with a request from Judge Knudsen to remove himself from the case, and he didn't.
Do you think it was a mistake to file that lawsuit?
No, I do not. I think
Even
it
though
had
it
to be
resulted in
filed.
nothing but retaliation
I
for
think
your
it had
client?
to be filed. It was the first of its kind. It was a family liberties lawsuit filed against a judge a judge who is responsible for everything that happens in the courtroom. He's responsible for the parents, he's responsible for the children, he's responsible for the attorneys. He's responsible, and he's, has the absolute power.
Did you warn Sandra he might retaliate?
Well, I assumed he was going to remove himself. I did not know the extent of his behaviors. I just didn't know the extent to which he would go through to make sure that Sandra was kept from her children.
So you underestimated that.
I underestimated that.
Was that a mistake on your part?
No. There was nothing more I could do. When I got the case, she had no custody rights, and nor did the father when I got the case. So we were going to trial, like any attorney would go to trial, focusing on the custody, focusing on the best interest factors, and that's the case I presented for Sandra. She was the only witness that I had.
I'm not talking about the case, I'm talking about the lawsuit, this first of its kind lawsuit that you filed. It sounded like it was an important thing, an important principle you wanted to make. I'm just wondering if you warned your client before filing this lawsuit on her behalf that she might pay a very valuable price for that, which was custody of her kids.
I didn't think that she would pay this valuable of a price. Absolutely, positively not. In fact, when I filed the constitutional challenge and asked Judge Knudsen to vacate his orders, I thought I was doing him a favor. I thought he would immediately recognize what he had done to this family and say, thank you, Michelle, for doing this for me, for giving me an opportunity to dismiss all of this, and he didn't do that.
Do you regret filing the lawsuit?
No. I don't think that we had any, I think Judge Knudsen went so far over and what his orders are, and just from a little bit that I know about family court. I mean, I don't know what you've read. I think he's gone way too over the top on his orders against me. I don't think they're warranted in any way. So
How do you think this is going to end for you? Really?
Do you know?
You've had a lot of time to sit in this jail and think about it.
A ridiculous amount of time. Amount of time that, I don't know, from what I'm hearing, speculation, that even people are starting to question the obviousness of the type of, why is she in there? I mean,
On the public dime, by the way.
On the public dime, exactly. And I mean, I'm in here with people that, not anybody deserves to be in jail, but there are people in here on multiple felonies and, I mean, some very serious, serious victim crimes that are in here for less time than me. So I think people are really starting to question Dakota County and how their policies are.
So what are your hopes when you get out? Do you think you will ever be reunited with your children?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
While they're still minors?
Yes. I believe this will be turned around. I do. I believe this will be turned around.
Overturned by another judge in another court?
But that's what it takes.
You
But it
prepared to
needs to be
fight?
fixed. Yeah, I will fight for my kids, yes. Yes, I will fight for my kids.
I want to go back to the fact that they were already divorced. David had signed papers giving her full custody. He had also signed papers that he was going to pay
He told
child
us he was
support.
tricked into signing those.
That's what he told the court.
He also told us that.
The reason, after the divorce, Sandra asked for an order for protection and got one. And it was after the divorce that he came into the home and sat the family around the kitchen table and said that he was going to shoot them all. That was after the divorce, and that was even while he had an order for protection, is my understanding. Sandra went into court with one of her attorneys and asked, she started this in a lot of ways. She started what we call post-decree proceedings, because she went into with one of her attorneys and asked for a motion that he stay away from the home. Even though she owned the home, he didn't even own the home. And he retaliated, David, by motioning to want the entire case reopened, saying he was tricked into signing a document.
think he said he believed we were pretending. It was a fake.
I think he said that you told him they were papers that got the ball rolling. But either way, he said, you told me 2 months ago that he drew up all those papers, and he's told us absolutely not. Why would I draw up papers paying 3 times what I earn every month and giving her everything and custody of the children and giving me no parental rights whatsoever?
When he based everything, he didn't give me more than he earned and all that. I ran the company with him. We ran it together. So you got to kind of look beyond into the whole money situation. It wasn't more than he earned, and he knew what he was signing, and he did put the whole thing together. As I told you, he used one attorney. He put the whole thing together. He went through page by page in a U.S. bank with a notary. He knew exactly what he was signing. I don't think you would ever believe that somebody just sign something willy-nilly. No, not when you're in a company and you run a business. We read everything we sign. I do, and I know he does too.
Were you with him when he signed it?
Yes, I was.
Where were the two of you?
U.S. Bank in Lakeville, under a camera with the notary and other people present.
So he,
Elizabeth, can I just stop for 1 second?
Yeah.
I do think it's important here. He says that you told him that this was just a divorce on paper so that you could access money from a family fund, that's what he thought he was doing.
No. Would you ever sign a paper like that? I mean, seriously.
Well, if you were going to be able to access money from a family trust.
Okay, but we gross between $6 and $8 million a year. The trust was not accessible for me. I had a co-signer, so I couldn't just go take this money, and it was $1 million, 1.3, I believe. I had no access to it. I had a co-signer, so yeah. And irregardless, would you just sign papers like this? I wouldn't.
so I don't understand any of that. I mean, that doesn't even make any sense. And what happened after that was Judge Knudsen kind of went AWOL on the case. I mean, basically, he took over the case and usurped the file. He ordered himself on every case involving this family, even all the cases that were against David Rucki, the criminal history that he had. He also, even on future cases. In fact, during the custody trial, there was a case pending in Scott County, a harassment restraining order case. And his attorney went in there, David Rucki's attorney, and actually asked to have the case heard by David Knudsen.
But so what do you, in general, Michelle, what does this say about the family court system? I mean, sum it up if you can. What is the state? What is, in your opinion, Sandra's case emblematic of when it comes to family courts?
The family courts are there to deprive people of their children and their property. They're not there to help. They produce orders, ordering people to do this and do that, and your liberties are lost with that. So, put it this way, in every other realm, we have agreements. Let me give you an example. Okay, do you ever watch The Big Bang Theory? Okay. Well, Sheldon has a relationship agreement, and he always pulls it out when somebody in the room, his roommates aren't following it. In family court, we have relationship orders. We have orders about how the money we're supposed to pay each other. We have orders when we can and cannot see our children. So that's the only realm where we actually have orders and not just agreements.
But we had, like, in our agreement, he was willing to give up the company as long as I gave him my portion. We talked about the kids, and he said he wouldn't do that. That's one thing that I did want to point out. Everybody says that's strange, but not all relationships, that isn't strange. The company meant more to him than the children. The children meant more to me than the money in the company. So that's why I was willing to give him my portion of the company for the kids. I mean, that probably doesn't sound right to you or to other people, but some people are willing to do that. So just in response to what Sean's asking me.
And the children have no mother now, so what good is that? And the courts were not responsible, they were responsible for taking both parents away from the children. And now the children are with David and the children have no mother. The courts weren't responsible for that, really.
Do you ever wonder how they are?
Yes, I wonder all the time. I think about my children all the time.
What do you-
Any mother would. I'm very concerned about them. And the more that you're telling me here today, it makes my concern even more. I don't know what to think. I'm very concerned for them.
You have 5 kids of varying ages, and I mean, do you wonder if, one of them is dating? Is one of their grades okay? I mean, the 2 daughters who ran away were stellar students in school, and one had just gotten the lead role in a school play, and we find out they spent 2 years working on a horse farm. They didn't go to school.
You're a mother. You don't think I think about all these things? I know what these kids have been put through. But it wasn't me who put these through. This was the system that put the kids through this. I worry about my children every single day. They're growing up. They're growing up before my eyes, and I don't even get to be there with them. What'd you say, heavily supervised? That's ridiculous. These are my children who I raised and I love.
Wouldn't you rather see them with supervision than to not see them at all?
I don't think you're quite reading how this whole the agreement that Judge Knudsen put on is not even feasible. It's a catch-22. It's a no-win situation.
How so?
Yeah, I have to sit down and read it with you and have it explained to you the way it was explained to me. It's a no-win situation, but that's no way to have your mother. That's not a way to have a mother.
But so you would rather not see them at all?
No, that's not what I said. I said there has to be something worked out that's more reasonable than what Judge Knudsen put together.
Well, he just said supervised visits.
Oh, no, there's much more to it than that.
Like
if you've
what?
read it, then you know. I can't say it when I don't have it in front of me.
I didn't see anything that was onerous there.
If he would even say something like every Friday from noon to 5.
But why are we restricting? I've done nothing.
This
These children, this is
were
just...
supervised visits. There's so
I'm
many
not
obstructions.
asking
I've done
about that.
nothing
I'm just
to my
asking.
children, that's the point.
And nobody here is saying you did.
To do this to somebody who's done nothing
Because
but love their children.
I'm simply asking you, given whether it's grossly unfair and inappropriate or not, I would still see my children
I would like to see my
supervised than to not see them at all.
I would do
So
anything to
why
see my
didn't
children.
you see your children?
I would do anything to see my children.
You know you wouldn't. You
Yes, I
didn't.
would. Yes, I was. I wasn't able to. I wasn't able due to the court orders.
The
That's
court.
the only reason I did not.
Why weren't you able to see them?
Because of the way the court orders were explained to me. I don't want to get into this right now, but Michelle can help me on this one.
And, there's lots of parents out there who get supervised visitation. There's so many obstructions to that. It might look on the outside like, oh, why don't you just go
It's just
have them supervised? There's just so much more to it.
What? What else is... If I have to call 25 people and make an arrangement, I do it. I'd rather do that than not see my children. What am I missing?
Well, you're missing that there's a court order basically where she can't see her children.
No. The court order said she should see her children,
Supervises.
but it had to be supervised.
There's
So
multiple court orders. There are court orders that say you can have no contact, or you're incarcerated. There's court orders that say you are to do this. I mean, there are so many court orders that Knudsen himself even said, I've issued so many, I don't even know what I've issued. And again, that is on transcripts. But you go back to, I would do anything to see my children. But again, I've done nothing to not be there with my children every single day and get to raise them like I was before this all happened. Before Judge Knudsen in Dakota County stepped into my life, I was living with my children and everything was fine.
given your recent health issues, has that shaken? I mean, you have a heart issue, Sandra. I mean, does that ever shake your resolve or change? I mean, make you think, I just need to get out there and no matter what I have to do, be with them?
I just said that. I said I would do anything for my children. I want to see my children.
Well, like, except you haven't.
Because I haven't been able to due to the way the court orders have been.
Bottom line, do you have from start to finish any regrets in the choices you've made, the things that you've done, the things that you've said?
I have to think about that. There's so many things that have gone down. My regrets is my children. I'll never regret my children. That's one thing I'll never regret.
You'll never regret.
Having my children and loving my children. My children are one
I'm
thing
talking
I
the last few years. You're in jail today. You've been in jail for 108 days. You don't see your children. You don't speak to your children. You don't hear from your children. Was it all worth it? Everything that you've done in the last few years?
I would do anything for my children.
You would do it all over again?
No, I said I would do anything for my children. The rest of the question I gotta think about.
Sadly, I don't think we're coming back a third time. And I hope you're not here long enough for us to come back a third time. So, if you could figure out a way to answer the question, this would be your time to do it.
I'm trying to tell you that I love my children. The courts put me in the county put me in a predicament that no mother should have to be placed in. I was living my life and raising my children, and everything was fine. There were no problems. There were no psychological or these kids that need medications. There was nothing. Everything was fine before this judge and everybody else that he handpicked his little selection of people. When we asked to go to outside people, we were denied. It had to only be his people, his small section that he chose. That's when the whole thing. But you keep asking me, do I regret? I regret the fact that I'm sitting here and I'm not with my children. I do regret that. But as for my children, I mean, they are my life. I love my children more than anything in this world.
And do you think that you bear any responsibility for...
Everybody bears responsibility in everything they do. Nobody's, everybody has responsibility.
What's your responsibility in all of this?
I have responsibilities as much as anybody else. I have responsibilities. But it comes back to my kids. You're asking me if I regret things. Everybody regrets things.
I'm just asking you what you might regret. Whether it's filing that lawsuit or,
I couldn't have thought of what people would have done in this. I can't decide if filing a lawsuit, would Knutson have retaliated to this level? Who would have thought that a person in a position that he is in would retaliate to this degree over filing a lawsuit? That's pretty extreme.
he maintains that the facts don't support your case.
He could have stepped down and just walked away and let another judge. And after repeated attempts, he refused to do it.
The primary responsibility of a judge is to discern the facts. So look at the trial that took place, and what the judge was there to do was to try to get at what happened, the facts. Okay, and that didn't happen. He heard from guardians that talked with several people. That's all hearsay upon hearsay upon hearsay. That's why I think that the two most important people in a custody case are the parents, and they're probably the only people that should be testifying. The guardians it's all hearsay. And you do know the children actually talked with the judge?
Yes, I know that. Okay. You guys told me all about that last time.
And he sealed the file after that. And he also denied her informal papyrus after that. She wasn't getting child support. She never got a dime of child support or spousal support in that order, even though it was court ordered. Never a dime. Then there was complaints that she didn't pay the mortgage. And then she's awarded the home. And at that same hearing, she's handed a little note to go see a specialist to judge her on parental alienation. She goes and sees them for a half an hour. That specialist writes a letter to the court. Judge gets on the phone and an order comes down
I
2
know,
hours.
we've gone through all this, and I know the facts of this case, and they are extraordinary. I mean, I don't think anybody can argue any other way.
It's extraordinary that, excuse me, that a divorce like this could end up with a mother in jail and no contact with all 5 of her children. I don't think anybody on any side of this case disputes how extraordinary this circumstance is. Where the dispute comes is who's responsible for that.
And the judge is responsible.
That's what you say. The judge says Sandra's responsible.
Why would Sandra be responsible? The judge
You'd have to, I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm just going to say, the judge is responsible for everyone in the courtroom, like I said.
The judge isn't responsible for Sandra being here today.
Oh, $1 million bill that he personally put on me? Yeah, it's...
Well, that part of it, maybe.
That's a little...
He's not responsible for 2 of your daughters running away and
Well, yeah, he is.
charges that you helped hide them for 2.5 years.
Had he not made the decisions that he had made that were, and disregarded the kids, I know you'd like to bring it down to me, but essentially it goes back to him. He could have listened to the kids. He could have really listened to the problems with the police, the domestic abuse, and everything that's going down. It would have never gotten to the level that it got had he not been, should we say, more one-sided.
Less one-sided.
Less one-sided.
Sean, do you have anything else?
No, I think we've covered everything. I mean, I do think, we know what the answer will be, but I think we just have to give her an opportunity to respond to number 12.
Oh.
Because we didn't actually specifically get that.
Sorry, my knee is killing me. No, I have talked about that.
But we talked a lot about Dale, but it's another party that we're going to speak to, and, you know.
No, I did say that in that question, but I'm happy to ask it again. Which, you know, not only did Dale Nathan say that you picked the girls up that day that they ran away, but the Dollins say that you dropped them off at the horse ranch a few days later.
And I said before us, we got into the case.
I know. It wasn't the first question.
Okay, well, we need it on the record. But
Okay. All right. Is there anything else either one of you guys want to say?
Just wanting to say, I'm not remembering, last time we talked, did that juvenile hearing take place where the kids were in foster care? I think I told Sean
They
about
weren't in
it.
foster care.
They were in foster care for a while, yeah.
No, they
A couple
weren't.
days. Yeah, I met the foster family. They're in foster care.
They were.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah, when they got picked up from the farm, they actually went to a foster family.
Oh, the girls, you mean?
The girls, yeah.
Oh, no, I thought you were talking about your allegations that earlier they'd been given to a foster family when in fact they hadn't.
No, I'm talking about the girls being in foster care, and that, how that whole hearing went down.
No, because when we talked last, they had just been found.
Right.
So anyway, what is it you want to tell me about?
Well, I was in juvenile court on a different case, not knowing that the girls were having their hearing.
You just happened to be there?
I just happened to be before that judge on a different case.
It's an incredible coincidence.
As I was finishing up, the judge said to me, "Are you going to be on the Grazzini-Rucki case on Monday?" And I said, "There's a case," and he started printing off the information for me.
An example, a lot of times we don't know, we are not told about cases.
So, and that hearing had happened before him in the morning. Sandra wasn't there, obviously, I wasn't there. And
What hearing was it?
it was the initial hearing on their child protection case.
On where they should go, you mean?
Right, David Rucki was there, his attorney was there. That judge, it was a different judge, recognized that Sandra wasn't there and continued the hearing to another day. And I just happened to be before that judge in juvenile court on another case.
To the point where they all recommended, they told me I don't get it, I'm just basically a bystander.
Yeah. Well, when we went to that hearing, and this is another issue that you've raised with her not being able to see her kids, we went around the room. The children were on the phone with their attorney. They did not want to be in the room. The prosecutor said that we need to have some child protection here. David Rucki's attorney said no. The guardian that had been at the trial said no child protection. And I said I thought that they should stay in foster care, child protection, and when Sandra's had her turn to speak, they said that she has no rights, that she's just a participant in the case, that she can't.
I couldn't voice opinion, I had no rights to look at any of the documents.
Was David speaking?
He had his attorney, but they informed that I couldn't.
Wait, but I'm sorry, was David speaking?
Was he speaking?
Well, was he speaking up and giving his opinion?
Yes.
So he verbalized.
He said he didn't want him. No, he didn't need to go to foster care, is that what he said?
David's attorney said there was no need for child protection.
I'm just saying, because usually what happens is people's attorneys speak for them. So David's attorney was speaking for them, and Michelle was speaking for you.
Yeah, where I was asking, don't I get a say? And they said, no, she gets no say. She's basically a bystander. She doesn't get to look at the document. What else they tell me? I don't get to look at the documents. I don't get to voice an opinion. But they did say the prosecutor,
but your lawyer was voicing an opinion on your behalf.
No, it said it right in the order.
It said it in the order.
She's in jail. I have an order in front of me. She's looking at it. She's seeing that she's just a participant in the case.
Because at that point she's been charged with a crime in the case.
No, it was because, let me finish. It was because she had no parental rights. She has absolutely no custodial rights.
I know, but I'm sorry.
So she had no
you
rights.
lost me on something. She's sitting in jail, charged with 2 felony counts, or how many felony counts? 3? 6 now, but it was started out as 3, I thought. She's in jail, charged with several felony counts of helping to hide these girls. So when there's a hearing about what should be done with the girls, is it a surprise to you that
she was called to the hearing to weigh in on it? Even if she wasn't in jail.
You're just telling me she has no say.
Even if she was, right, the judge had her come to the hearing, but I'm just saying, even if she hadn't been in jail, the status of her not having any custodial rights is that she was just a participant in a children's child protection case.
And is that different from David Rucki's status?
It's different from his status because he's a parent.
Legal custody of the kids.
Yeah,
So
that's
in
when
fairness,
he's got
he has legal custody of the kids, which is why they wouldn't ask Sandra's opinion.
He has legal and physical custody.
Right.
She has absolutely no custodial rights. Her
Okay, so why
custodial
was this so
rights are
surprising to you? You knew that he had legal and physical custody, so why was this? I'm missing
I
the
think the point
point.
you're trying to make is that everybody recommended foster care for the kids.
Right.
The foster care parents, the CPS, the prosecutor, everybody did except for the one guardian she keeps referring to, and David Rucki. And yet, the judge had said what?
Well, she has no say. The judge said there was no
That
jurisdiction.
he didn't have the authority to keep them in child protection.
So you think what's happened to them going to this place in California is bad for them?
I don't know where they were sent.
They were sent to a place that supposedly helps children rebond with estranged parents.
Okay? No more than I've been told.
She's pretty much been ostracized from the kids. She's been alienated by the courts from day one. So she really
Yes, yeah, but one might also argue by her own actions. She's sitting in jail charged with a crime, and there's compelling evidence that she's guilty. So that's my point about whether or not you regret anything. It's hard from this vantage point. You're accused.
I can't answer your question because
I know.
I guess you're seeing if she did participate this as a crime. You do know there's an affirmative defense, and they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she wasn't protecting her children.
Then I'm sure if what you're saying is true, Michelle, that she should have walked out already, but will walk out a free woman with a clean record when you're done with the trial. But right now, I know what the charges say and what the witnesses say and what the girls have said. And that's that their mom helped them escape and found a place for them to hide. And in this state, that's a felony.
Right.
So,
But the defense is, and it's an affirmative defense, is that if
I know,
all
you already
of
said
that
that 3
happens.
times. I got that. So it's an argument you'll make, and if you're lucky, you will prove, and for Sandra's sake, in court.
Right.
But I'm sure then that people will be asking for exactly what we've been asking for, which is proof of all the abuse. So
You
we
don't
would love
need,
it
you
if-
just need a reasonable belief. Don't need to show any proof. And the girls have already said on camera in public that their father wanted to shoot the whole family and sat them down at a table and said he wanted to shoot the whole family. Sandra said that too. Sandra was there.
Okay. I hope it doesn't go so far as to have, I mean, do you want your daughters taking the stand in this case?
I have no idea what the criminal attorney has got scheduled. I can't say anything about it. Can't voice my opinion either, go to that. I'm kind of, my hands are tied, I can't say.
No, I get that. I'm just saying, I think I would be worried that would be traumatizing to my children to drag them into court and testify for their mother about this affirmative defense that your lawyer says is going to set you free, which is that you believed that your children were in danger from your ex-husband. And the only way to do that is to pull your children into court and put them on the stand. Are you willing to go that far?
I have no idea. My attorney is, but I cannot comment.
You don't have any idea what you're...
I cannot
Sandra,
comment.
you're a very smart woman. I have a hard time
cannot
understanding.
comment. You're asking me to comment.
Saying no comment is different from saying I don't have any idea. Don't say you don't have any
I
idea.
can't comment. I
Okay.
can't say anything.
Okay, that's a better answer than saying I don't have any idea, because that's just
Well, I don't know what he's
ridiculous.
going to do, and I can't comment on it.
Well, you're the client, so you tell him what to do. That's how it works.
Don't tell my attorney what to do.
Well, the kids told Judge Knudsen in what he called a listening session, a psychotherapy session, that there was abuse.
And so you're going to call Judge Knudsen in?
Now, we would like to unseal that file that he sealed of his own volition that we've tried to unseal through the appellate courts. He won't unseal it. Why? Why won't he unseal it? There's also
Isn't there
letters.
some sort of, can't somebody, doesn't he have to justify why he sealed it to somebody? You know?
No, he is, that's what I'm saying. He has the power to seal, he has the power to unseal. That's an order. He creates his own orders. There's nobody over him.
Is that your phone?
That's my phone, sorry.
It's that.
Okay. It's
Want
quite
me
a
to start
ringtone.
all over?
No, it's fine. I don't think it picked it up. But so can you just
there's
pick it
no-
up? I mean, how do you...
I took it up to the appellate court, and he had his reasoning, and they didn't unseal it. They sealed the actual transcript of what took place in that room. Each child got up and talked to the judge.
Right, no, we
I
talked
told
about this
you
at
what
length, yeah.
happened. Okay.
All right, so anything else either one of you would like to say? This is your opportunity. Anything I have forgotten to ask you, or that you would like me to ask you?
Well, I just...
Is there a trial date set?
There's a trial date set, March 7th. March 7th. She'll be going to trial. And another
How long do
thing,
you think that'll last, the trial?
I think it'll be about a week.
Really? A whole week?
I think a whole week. Another issue is that there's a judge that's been assigned to Sandra's case, which doesn't happen in Dakota County.
Why not?
It just doesn't. They don't assign judges to criminal cases. They don't assign judges to family cases. That's why it was so unusual that Judge Knudsen was on her family case the whole time. He don't do that. He did it in Sandra's case. That same judge was assigned to Dee Dee Everbull's case, and that same judge was assigned to the Dollins case. So that, they put all those hearings on March 7th, when she's supposed to have her court trial.
So you think it'll be delayed?
Well, no, I think she wants to have her court trial. I think the others are going to be delayed. I just don't think they're recognizing that there's going to be trials in this case. We have a system of prosecutors that are what I call settlement specialists.
Well, nobody's going to expect her to settle now. She's already spent all the time in jail.
Right. Nobody's going to, but that is the expectation, that there'll be a settlement.
Why would there be that expectation?
Well, why would they schedule everyone's trial on the same day? They have 3 omnibuses because the Dollins are represented by 2 different attorneys. So they have 3 omnibus hearings and her trial all scheduled on the same day in Dakota County before the same judge. It's just not possible. So the thinking has to be, she had scheduled her trial. First, the thinking has to be that something's going to give. We're not going to go to trial. They're just not used to going to trial.
Would you settle at this point? Why would you settle?
I've already overstayed what I would do.
I know.
I stayed longer than I would even do
What
if
am
I
I
was.
missing? Like, why on earth would she settle? It's
That's
crazy.
the big question of why are they making me stay when I've already stayed more than I'd have to stay if it didn't go up. That doesn't make, why are you still making her stay? That's the big question that, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't ask that. Why are they making you stay when you've already stayed what you'd have to stay?
Yeah.
It's a process of torture where heavier and heavier weights have been placed on her until she either suffocates or confesses. That's the process that she's been under. Why would you have $1 million bail? Why would her first hearing, when I had filed paperwork that I was involved, be without an attorney earlier than on the public roster? Why would we have 3 bail hearings that do nothing to help her get out? And bail is just to assure that you appear at court.
And just to be clear, there's no way you can post bond.
No, and I've never, so we're clear, ever missed a court hearing. And in this case, they filed a charge, issued a warrant, and listed me as a fugitive all in one day. There was no court date, I found out, ever for me to even miss.
What are you talking about?
When they, when they file a court hearing or a charge, they charge you, then they schedule a hearing. If you don't make the hearing, then they issue a warrant for you. And then if they can't find the warrant, then they make you a fugitive. In my case, on August 12th, I believe, they issued a charge. On the same day, they issued a nationwide warrant and listed me as a fugitive.
Well, I think at that point, because everybody was saying they had no idea where you were.
I worked for American Airlines, the largest airline in the world. I produced documents that showed I was working before, during, and after this whole thing.
But even Michelle said you didn't know where, even you said in press reports you didn't know where
Well, I
Sandra
never
was.
said that, but let me explain.
What do you mean?
I never said that.
That already got brought up.
So those reporters all
There was
lied?
one reporter that said that I said she's going to turn herself in this weekend. I never said that. I never said that. He showed up at my office knocking on the door. Never said that. But the point is, as you can see, with the Dollins, they got notice of the hearing, and they're appearing at their hearing. Dee Everbold gets notice of the hearing, and they appear at their hearing. She never had the opportunity to appear at a hearing. They never scheduled one.
Did you call her and
said
tell her that there was a warrant issued for her
No.
arrest? Why not? Weren't you her lawyer?
No, I had never seen the warrant. I had never seen the warrant. A reporter called me and said it existed. So I didn't call her and tell her.
So you didn't call her and tell
She
her?
had no reason to check in with me. We had just finished our U.S. Supreme Court petition. So,
I don't know.
and that isn't even the standard practice is they schedule a hearing, just like they did with the Dollins and just like they did with Dee Everbold. They didn't schedule a hearing for her to appear at. They just put out a warrant for her arrest. So how could she not? What she's trying to explain is how could she?
I was saying I've never missed a court date, and they're saying, well, we're afraid you're not going to show up. Based off what? I've never missed a court date before.
I think based on the fact that you were unfindable for 2 months.
I work for an airline. I make a phone call.
I don't know. There was a warrant issued for your arrest in August, and it took them 2 months to find you, and they had to do it in the middle of the night.
And there's also record that they never called the airline, never called the phone number that the airline had on file. And there's something else to me.
So are you denying that you were lying low and difficult to find during all those months? And
I was not lying low or difficult to find. I was flying before, during, and after, and I had vacation.
The same court that ordered child support and was taking child support out of her check at American Airlines is the same court that's saying she can't be found. That's inconsistent.
and nobody ever contacted you?
No, the court's never contacted me.
So is it 50 change the battery?
It was-
Oh, I'm done. We're just chatting.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I
Okay,
don't understand why they wouldn't have contacted you.
I don't
That makes no
understand
sense.
either. When she got a judgment that David Rucki was involved in, and it was for some $500,000. Lisa Elliott was involved in. Lisa Elliott was there, David Rucki was there. I was told by a reporter after it already took place.
Wait, what was this?
There was a civil hearing. We all talk about that. There was a civil hearing. She had been a plaintiff in a lawsuit in Hennepin County. It was her family money.
Oh,
And they were, David Rucki and his attorney went into court and
were they parties to it?
did motions, what?
Were they party to this?
They were not a party to this. They made themselves parties to it. And they did motions to have all those monies go to them. And I didn't find out about it until after the fact. A reporter called me and said there's $500 and some odd thousand in a case that Sandra just got awarded. And I said, I had no idea. And I went there.
You were the attorney.
And I was the attorney. So I'm not told things.
What happened to that money?
That money, I'll answer the question. It got sent to Lisa Elliott, David Rucki's attorney. All of it. All of it. To be distributed the way she saw fit or the way David Rucki wanted it to be distributed.
And
went
how
to
could
his
you make a
parents.
claim on that? Is that because of back payments on child support?
We asked for it to be
Let me talk, because then it'll be too confusing. What happened was, he made a claim on it because there was court orders in the divorce file that said that this lawsuit was reserved. And it said neither party can go up and grab it. And instead what happened was he went with his lawyer and he grabbed it for his parents, who his lawyer became a lawyer for the parents.
I'm sorry, I don't understand how somebody who's not party to a lawsuit gets to just walk in.
That's what happened.
That's what happened. She
Another
motioned. Didn't give me notice. She motioned. It was all E5.
That's her family money.
That's her family money, and it went to
Then we went to court, family court. Michelle asked for it to be towards child support or something so I could live on since I have no money. And they said no, they gave the entire amount that was left all to him 100%. Tell her.
Yeah.
That's just weird. So I didn't get a dime of it.
If you want to do some happy reading, no matter
Child support, I didn't use it for nothing. It strictly went right to him.
no matter what move she makes, they're heading her off at the pass.
So they weren't told about that.
And nobody understands that. I mean, I think I understand it because when you came to me, you were homeless. And I couldn't believe what had happened to her. And part of me said, what? This is such a remarkable,
Did you know about all that money that
story.
was given to him?
No. I'll ask about that.
Okay.
From the Grazzini family, it's my siblings and me.
From the trust, right?
Right.
And that was all you got from the trust?
I was supposed to get that 500 and I didn't get any of it. Of the 500, I didn't get any of it. They gave it all to him. Well, his parents claimed that me and him had borrowed money. They had nothing to base it off. Do you want to talk about that one? And so I tried to go after his parents and go, "We borrowed this. If you did, then we both should pay back." Judge Knudsen stepped in and says, "No, I'm overruling on that case between you and his family, his parents, and I'm dismissing it." So he dismissed it with prejudice and said, "You will pay back whatever they say that you owe. You personally, not your husband, just you alone." So that's what they went in to try to get and got, and then whatever was left of that money. We went to court. court, and Judge Canning in family court said, no, the rest of it all goes to him, to pay supposedly bills I had.
How much was for his parents? How much went to his parents?
It was about 400 and something thousand,
So almost all of it.
almost all of it.
And why were you held responsible by yourself for the loans?
Because Judge Knudsen ordered it that way.
And what were the loans for?
They claimed that we borrowed them for a lawsuit that I had with my family, but they had no documents or paperwork to substantiate it. It was simply them.
So they're saying you borrowed money from us
You and
to
David
get
did.
lawyers to fight for your trust, and you need to pay us back.
But yet, what they don't bring out is the money that I had previously. Judge Knudsen, there was an attorney that I had hired for exactly that case, that came after me for a $400,000, it's in Memphis, that I had gotten earlier. And I couldn't touch that because the lawyer that the Ruckys claimed that they borrowed us the money to pay came after me for $400,000, and Knudsen awarded him that entire amount. So that guy who the Ruckys are claiming I borrowed money for had already been paid. Making sense?
It doesn't make any sense. It's bizarre.
Okay, guys, this time it's my turn to
Oh,
rush
you
back
have
to
to
the
leave.
airport.
Oh,
I'm
you
sorry.
have to
Yeah, I have to fly back tonight.
Oh,
But we'll talk tomorrow.
yeah. Did you get those affidavits with all of the listing of David Rucky's criminal activity, and I had it all?
Yeah. We
Okay, you have
all
that.
this crap.
Okay, but you want to actually...
Background is actually, right now, I mean, things may have been expunged off it, but
Okay.
I mean, it's mostly
You
like
do half of it.
driving offenses, other than the conviction for the violating the protection order, and then the disorderly conduct thing, which I think goes back to the road
It
rage
also is
thing.
like driving with tinted
Without like a
windows or-
seatbelt or without insurance.
So you're wanting actual police
No,
reports?
they don't have the
Yeah.
terroristic threats from the Bai family, and they don't
We
have...
need any police reports
Police
prior
To get a police report, I have to have, and I'll see what I have in the box, because, you're saying I have everything. So,
Makes sense to you?
but to get a police report, you have to know the date of the incident. I might not be, you just don't show up and get it, but if they were actually...
Oh, she has
I mean,
all
obviously,
the
Well,
bills.
his name-
it results in a conviction.
And so
Yeah.
Michelle says, well, that's her
It
responsibility.
didn't result in a conviction.
Well, there's one violation of the
Right. Okay.
But I'm
Ordered her
before
these
that,
both.
prior to the order of
We're
protection.
deciding that money is...
Is she, I don't know if she's... Sandra, I'm confused. Sandra, there were no police reports until after you got a divorce, right? You didn't report him to the police.
Yeah, I did. They said that he'd had to go back into the house, and they said if we take him out, you know how it works, it gets worse. But all
But
the written reports,
there's no police reports prior to,
not with me, with other people.
but you didn't file.
Not, yeah, mine are all after, all his previous assaults are before.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
The neighbors had two...
And it's all late though, right?
No, he had some mini guns too,
With other people.
other people.
Okay. But so most of those didn't result in convictions then, right? Because they're not on his record.
I had 3 people for me, 1 for the children, and 3 violent.
You're talking over each other. He's asking for they were asking for
24
police reports. You're saying, yes, we have tons of police.
24 police.
Yeah, but police reports, they're looking for the physical evidence where the police take things down from
Those
you.
are the ones I gave to you. Yep, I got
You told me in our last interview, you said before we had our first kid, he'd been in and out of jail a few times.
That was Minneapolis.
For what? Drunken fights in bars, getting picked up because he was belligerent, bouncers, mostly bar kind of things. Was he convicted of anything twice? He was brought in, it was assault and battery, and that was in...
I told you that.
Yeah.
Right, but that's not on his record.
Yeah, but things are, if you're not convicted and you're just...
He was convicted.
You said he was
Okay,
convicted.
you said you were.
He was at the biker bar downtown.
It's let them do that
But yeah,
research, I mean.
But if you have
But we're
24
not
police
finding it.
reports,
Yeah.
You have them.
They're not funny. You're saying, now, you just told me that there's no police reports prior to...
you were saying 24 police
So you're just so, you were saying 24 police reports.
Yes, after, because I gave them to you guys.
but they're after
After, why would you have them?
Because I had to go get them from them to bring them to you.
Get them from them about you? These are reports you made that they wrote down each and every time, police reports. And you think there's 24 police reports, okay?
And Michael...
And you gave them to me? Okay. All right. Well, that's what happens when you throw out a number like that.
I remember there was like 24. That's what I remember. 22, 24, something like that.
And I haven't gone through the box.
Well,
Yeah.
Because here she also says she took photos, we turned them in at the beginning of the divorce. Somehow they're gone.
Have you ever seen photos of her?
This was before my involvement. The photos of the bruises.
Everything was turned over to the attorneys.
Okay.
And
But
the
you
videotape-
keep saying me.
I know.
I don't.
I had 3 attorneys prior to
I know,
Katie
okay.
Graves, Linda Olip, and
And remember, when you came to me, you came just you, a homeless person. It wasn't like you had a bunch of boxes to turn over to me. So.
I got what I got from Chesapeake.
Yeah.
I gotta run the rest.
So your car's still here, right?
I hope so.
Yeah. You want to come down with me?
Yeah.
Okay, so anything?
So, I mean,
I'll just
We
look
can
in those
contact
boxes.
these previous attorneys too.
Yeah,
Do you think they still have stuff?
I don't know.
mean,
Probably. I mean, I'm gonna
We
just try to
just-
find
we
whatever
just need
she's.
you guys to
Yeah.
find it because
Yeah.
you know she keeps talking about court orders and arrest records and there's proof and there's proof and we've looked and we can't find it.
Well, I also have the
So at
feeling that
some
some of the stuff
she's
that
just-
Judge Knudsen may have said to her at some point, she took as like, this is a
She
court
does.
order.
She does.
And I
She
think
does.
it's not necessarily a court order,
Right.
it's something that was said,
Yeah.
or something.
Well, there was no.
We need to make sure that
Yeah. Well, right, when she said, the way I hear her talking, police reports, it could be she called the police 26 times. I'm just going to have to,
Right.
so
Because
she
Lakeville
does.
doesn't have that many
Yeah.
records.
They don't have any
They
records.
don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
So
I
I
mean,
think that they have the stuff that we know about, which is the
The violation.
protection violation, the coming to the house for the mail and all this,
so I think when she says reports, and I haven't even, like I told you, looked at it from this angle yet, coming up. I was just like, a homeless person comes into my office. She has none of her kids. I have boxes and boxes.
Right.
Boxes.
Well, like I said,
But
we
she
can
never
focus
came
on
to
these
me
attorneys,
with a box, yeah. You can, there was
call
one.
the other lawyers, ask if they have anything. It's a quick call.
I think police reports would be, you have to go down to the police station, you have to get
Yeah.
them, you have to know the date of their incident reports.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're just available, you
But
have to
even-
actually physically go
Yeah,
get them.
we've spoken to Lakeville, and we're trying to get whatever they have. But even those, if they don't result in a conviction, it's just a police report, right?
So do you think you're gonna be able to talk with the kids?
Oh, I would just listen. I thought what the Fox reporter did in interviewing those kids bordered on.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. But so,
We're very, very, very careful about
Yeah, we don't want to. We don't want to get in
never-
the way of whatever's happening with them. The sort of
you'd have to have the father.
And as you know,
Are you gonna be able to talk with the father?
Yeah, we'll talk to
Okay,
David.
you're gonna be able to talk
Everybody.
with them, okay, good.
The only
Everybody.
And he's gonna
the
be
kids
good.
are just a unique situation because they're minors and they're
Right.
they're going through a
It's a
intensive
very,
program
we have
right
the
now.
net, I did a whole hour on a terrible adoption case that happened, and, I actually spent an entire day with the girls, the girls at the center of that. They were very young. And, I didn't interview them. I observed them, and we spent the whole day together. We shot them while protecting their identities completely. And we reported what we saw, and record, of them speaking to me and singing songs and showing me their artwork, but we didn't, we're very, very careful because your kids and these kids in that Arkansas case have been through a lot, regardless of whose side you're on
We don't
in your
exacerbate
story.
any of that.
Your kids have been through hell, and we are not, going to make that worse for anybody, so.
Yeah, and I told you they ran away that first day too, you got that?
Yeah, no, we all five of them did.
Yeah, and there should be a police report on that, but again, you were just out of the house.
Give me a break, I'm really out there, I'm trying. I try to get stuff done as fast as I can.
Well, you're not out there, you're in here. You've always
You don't
been,
find that strange?
well, she's always been, you've always
My
been,
opinion, but I
she's always been in, when I first met her, I said, it's like you're incarcerated out in the world. I mean, you can't see your kids, you can't be in your home, all your possessions. I mean, just imagine if I had to leave my home, my computers, my whatever.
Did he ever let you go back and pick your
No, she tried. She She tried. Oh, it was one time, didn't they say under his ruling, he could follow me, but he'd already emptied.
Not when I was involved. It was
No.
never. I mean, that's what I mean. You're conflating everything. I never tried. I went in for the constitutional challenge to just
They
undo
never let me
everything.
back in.
I wasn't gonna, my idea was
So I don't
not
have any
to.
pictures of myself, of my children, of nothing. Other than what, like Christmas, or pictures I brought to work and handed out to people or stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's where I've got stuff.
Well, good luck.
Well, thank you.
I mean, if you can find any of the documentation, please call us.
Yeah.
Sean or one of the producers
Yeah.
staff will send you just to help jog your memory. I know you
So
don't
what
have
is the spin you're taking on this?
We're still reporting the story. We're not taking a spin, we're letting everybody, but that's why we need the documentation.
Yeah.
At this point, it's a he said,
I mean,
she said, he
You
said.
tell a million people that there are 26 police reports. Where are they?
24. I've given them to you repeatedly.
Okay, well, we need.
Okay.
Because
I
otherwise
don't even believe that,
we have
but
nothing, and we have to report.
I'm just saying.
Okay?
20, it's police reports. It could just be a phone call.
No, it's police.
You have to actually go down and get them.
Got them.
Okay, that'll be our priority number one,
You and
get
I will
those.
Good luck, we'll try maybe on top of the
Yeah.
trial, who knows?
So priority number one, we get those police reports.
We know what you can believe what
I gotta take this thing off, I guess.
I'd like to see the
I'm still on mic.
We don't have to.
Are you still
that's
on
right.
You have Judge
That's
Jasper.
He actually, once it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court denied it, he removed himself from the case. And he didn't even do it by court order. He went to the chief judge and he said, I don't want to be on that case anymore. He said, I don't want to be on that case anymore. He didn't even do it the proper way, where you go into court and you remove yourself. And then all of a sudden another judge, a retired judge, was on the case.
Right. All right, well, I'm sorry to have to run,
got
guys.
the other end up here. Then we can just pull it straight out. Excuse me.
Let's put my face in my head.
I think we lost some of it there.
Thank you very much.
Again with the makeup?
Always.
No, it looks amazing. It just looks a tiny bit like,
that works.
garish.
Black eye.
No, but my God, that's.
No, you know what's gonna happen, it's gonna hurt so much when
You have to have it reset.
If you re-break it.
I know.
Because the bones, I guess, were pushed up because of the way I fell. So
Where did you fall?
they're not sure, they're thinking it might have been off the bunk. Under the ground, under the cement. I woke up, I was on the floor.
Scary. Oh my God.
They just know that I was completely out.
I'm coming.
Stop.
Lucy just was like, what,
They just know I was
Caused it.
completely out cold. Because anyways, you'd put your hands out.
Yeah.
And they said the way of the fall, you were completely unconscious.
And you don't remember feeling weird or
Yeah, I felt nauseous. I felt like I had to go to the bathroom and I was really nauseous.
Sandra, also,
All right.
Officer Pizza.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right, and we'll be in touch, and whatever
Okay.
you can find, let us know,
Will do.
okay? All right, take care, Sandra.
Thank you.
All right, see you guys tomorrow.
I just have a random question.
Ms. Everhall, what, if anything, would you like to tell me before I sentence you?
Well, a fair trial includes the right to present a complete defense. I was made aware that I was also not provided with information on Christina Fox, all of the investigative data. I completed a consent form that was given to Stearns County to have that released, and that was willfully refused to be provided to my husband. So I didn't receive any of the preliminary audio statements on any of the witnesses, so I wasn't given the fair trial.
The point.
And nobody here is saying you did.
To do this to somebody who's done nothing
Because
but love their children.
I'm simply asking you, given whether it's grossly unfair and inappropriate or not, I would still see my children
I would do anything to see my
supervised than to not see them at all.
I would do
So
anything to
why
see my
didn't
children.
you see your children?